I wouldn't put tasks in my calendar. You can really, really muddy the functionality of a calendar by saying, pick up dog food, drop off dry cleaning, call that person back. I mean, unless that's a time sensitive thing, that to-do list doesn't belong in your calendar. However, it does belong somewhere that you can make sure there's a deadline to get it done. Maybe you have a time block in your calendar that says knock out those to-dos or check your task list. For me, my task list has to have time estimates and deadlines. And if the time estimate is a significant enough block of time, it will make it to my calendar, if that makes sense.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So today, time-saving basics is our topic. We're going to be talking about things like the electronic calendar, automated searches in the MLS, showing services, among other things. Where do you want to start?
Well, maybe some of what we'll talk about is super basic, but Charlie, I've been a little bit like the ones that you just mentioned. I've been a little startled this year to have coaching clients tell me that they don't set up buyers on an automated search in the MLS and they just manually look for homes whenever it occurs to them. That's crazy to me, but I want to make sure we cover it. So I think there's some what to me is super basic, and then maybe some not so basic things that we can talk about for time saving for agents.
Yeah, that's good. We had Ashton Gustafson in earlier this week who spoke, and he also brought up setting up buyers on auto-generated searches and sending a copy to yourself so you know what they're actually receiving. It's basic,
sure,
but we've had two coaches now that have brought it up, so it may be basic, but perhaps it's not actually happening.
Apparently so. Maybe people have gotten licensed quickly and lately and didn't take MLS training, and it hasn't occurred to them to do that. And yeah, pretty basic, but definitely important.
Yeah, for sure.
By the way, I wouldn't copy myself on it. When you've got 10, 15 active buyers, you're just going to be inundated with emails you can't read. So I wouldn't do that part, but and I've been doing it for years.
Okay. Where do you want to start today?
Well, the very foundation of all things is your calendar. So please use an electronic calendar. And people who are addicted to paper, I get that. And so I would say transition slowly. It'll be a new habit, but once you have it, you will absolutely love it. And then the people who say, oh, I do. This is my calendar. This is my calendar. Yeah, I don't know. Are you 15? My calendar is a 27-inch monitor, right? And yes, it syncs to my phone. So this is also, now I feel like I'm being a little sarcastic. I'll tone it down. I think some people don't realize that your Outlook calendar, your Google Calendar can sync to your phone seamlessly. And if you're simply using the iCalendar or whatever came with your device and you don't have any other way of checking it on a bigger device, I think you're missing out on some of the functionality of what electronic calendar can do for you. So I'd say learn to use something like Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar on a bigger monitor, plan your week, look ahead. I say don't skip the things that you schedule that are repeating. If you're going to skip your lead generation or skip your workout, move that block of time to a place where you can honor it, or delete it and admit to yourself that it didn't happen. But make your calendar a plan in advance and a record in arrears.
Yeah, if something becomes wallpaper and you don't even notice it and you never do it, I agree. It should just be deleted.
Right. So I play games with mine. I drag the blocks around, make notes on them. If a coaching client has to cancel at the last minute, I had one. She had a pipe burst in her house. It was like half an hour before our coaching call. She's like, I can't make it. And rather than just delete that or move it because I didn't know when the call would be, I made a note on the appointment that we had to cancel. So it was a record for me.
Good. So what other tips around calendaring? I think just calendar discipline is another one, right? Having a calendar is one thing, but are you actually using it and putting all of your appointments in there? That's a whole other issue, to be frank.
That's true. And I was acknowledging that if you don't have that habit, please don't be daunted by this recommendation. It will take time to develop that habit, but you've got to commit to trying. So I would say, just as you said, Charlie, start putting everything in there. But I would put in appointments. I wouldn't put tasks in my calendar. You can really, really muddy the functionality of a calendar by saying, pick up dog food, drop off dry cleaning, call that person back. I mean, unless that's a time sensitive thing, that to-do list doesn't belong in your calendar. However, it does belong somewhere that you can make sure there's a deadline to get it done. Maybe you have a time block in your calendar that says knock out those to-dos or check your task list. For me, my task list has to have time estimates and deadlines. And if the time estimate is a significant enough block of time, it will make it to my calendar, if that makes sense. But I can't muddy my calendar with pick up dog food. That's a task function. Now we're getting totally into productivity. So visit your calendar, visit it often. I would plan your week. Maybe it's Sunday that you look at the week coming up, and then check your calendar morning and night and keep it current. That's what I would do.
I like it. Good. What's next on your list?
Next on my list is scheduling those automated searches. In a different market, I would also say setting up sellers on automated searches is a really cool way to keep them in the loop about the market. Right now, I really don't think it matters. You're going to go on the market on a Thursday and be under contract by a Monday. So I don't do that now, but that's a really cool hack for making you look thorough and professional. But put your buyers absolutely on automated searches. If you have in a different market than this one, another technique for that is not only keep them on an automated search, but go ahead and do those manual searches. I had a friend who was so successful at converting his buyers by getting up early every day and looking at their searches and sending them the ones that he really liked, because maybe they had kind of zoned out and weren't paying attention, and he would reactivate their interest. That's really not the market we're in right now. But bare bones, I would set up, figure it out, take a class, figure out how to do it in your MLS. It shouldn't be that complicated. It's super valuable.
Good. Okay. So we've got calendaring. We've got making sure our buyers are set up on auto searches. What's third on your list?
Well, showing services. And then maybe that's controversial, and in no way did I mean to bring that up. But I found out a client of mine who's been a real estate agent for 6 years has been fielding all showing requests on his listings himself. His phone rings when an agent wants to show his property. That wouldn't be humanly possible in my market. When you have 90 showings in 2 days, you wouldn't get anything else done. You now have a full-time job just being a showing setter. So whatever service you have access to, you need to use a showing service or hire an assistant. That's way too much time. Yeah.
Agreed. And, some of the showing services also email the the buyer's agent asking for feedback, which is something that I've always loved. Instead of having to chase them for feedback, it drips on them until they give it to you.
Yep.
And then it all goes into one place, and you can choose to share that with the seller or not directly from there. I don't. I prefer to get the feedback myself and then share it with the seller instead of auto sharing it, but it is an option.
Well, but if you use one of those automated services, you can set it to not automatically share,
right.
but it will automatically collect it. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, cool. We've got 3. What's next?
Contract templates. Contract templates, if it's taking you an hour to draft a purchase agreement or longer, create templates to make that go faster. If you're writing multiple offers for every single client, I have a coaching client that writing contracts is like her biggest time drain. And I just keep beseeching her to streamline that process, get the addenda in order, get everything in order for listings and purchases, that it can go faster. So contract templates.
Cool. Where would you keep that template?
Well, so it totally depends on what you're using. Okay, so wherever your contracts live is where I would keep it. So I have particular software that is proprietary in Colorado and no one else has ever heard of it. But can you name a few, Charlie? Where do you guys draft your contracts?
Mostly in Instinet a la Lone Wolf, or AKA Lone Wolf, I should say. So having templates in there. But there's some other agents that use, other ones. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Instead of doing the same thing and having to pick the same forms every time, and just having you just click one button and the forms that you need for that particular transaction, and those parameters just come up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So just know whatever contract software you have, there's a functionality to create and save a template.
Very good. We're moving right along.
Okay.
What's next on your list?
TC services. transaction coordination services. So whatever that looks like, and it could be varied. Again, I find that people don't exactly know what I mean. Normally, TC services are anywhere from $300 to $500 per file. That's something that they get paid at closing. This is not a salaried employee, but it totally could be. I would love it if you would hire a full-time staff person to handle your many transactions. That's great. So whether it's hiring an actual assistant to do this work or a contractor to work per file, having TC services is an incredible time saver. These people are super, super efficient. They're good at what they do. They handle a lot of files and they get things done way faster and more consistently probably than you would. And then they take that off your plate, that eye on the documents and the dates and deadlines. Super valuable.
Good. Transactly is popular. Summit RE is popular. There's national companies, there's local companies, but I think to your point, Amy, you reach a breaking point of, depending on how many transactions you have, it makes sense to bring somebody in either part-time or full-time for your own business. We don't want to be spending more on transaction management by outsourcing than it would cost to actually hire someone.
Absolutely. And you keep in mind, my transaction coordinator, she works in another state. She's a full-time professional transaction coordinator. She handles 60 files at a time. Like, the woman is really, really competent. So when you look at, I couldn't possibly ask my assistant to do that. I think they could probably figure out a way to fit it in.
Right. Agreed. What do you have next?
Okay. So work from a plan. Being March here, we have been talking about business planning and revisiting business planning at RE/MAX Allegiance anyway. How is your plan working? Is it working for you? Is it an active part of your week? Is it guiding you? Is it helping you? When you wake up every day not exactly sure what to do, that makes you very inefficient with your time, right? And then when you have lots of new ideas about how to generate business and how to do better, and that you can't hold them in the light of your plan and compare, do I want to do this new thing? How does that fit in with my goals? That's a time suck too. So working from a plan is an incredible time savings. I would say, and I said this before about my own task list, when you draft your business plan, have time estimates, deadlines, priorities. If something is a B priority, then don't do it. Do the A priorities, right? We already established those are more important, and then look for ways to delegate. That's what I would say about your entire business plan. Get very, very detailed. Make it a set of instructions that technically you could give to someone else and it would make sense. Don't make it vague, and have time estimates, deadlines, priorities, and opportunities to delegate.
I like it. I keep saying, what's next? I don't know how long your list is.
No, it's long. Okay, you don't have to keep prompting me. I just don't want to run and not let you get a word in edgewise.
No, go ahead.
Hire out your farming. So I'm a little bit surprised at how many people have some sort of monthly marketing hanging over their head in areas where they want to dominate as a listing agent. And there's a couple of things. It's not just the time drain, which is what we're talking about today, but the quality of the stuff that ends up getting delivered. I strongly recommend that when you're farming a neighborhood, that you're making it stats driven. You're updating the neighbors on the sales in the neighborhood. I think that keeps you top of mind to somebody who knows the neighborhood. I know a lot of agents who like the idea of being creative month to month. Well, it's March. Maybe we should do something St. Patty's Day. Let's do a Mother's Day drawing. And I'm not saying those things aren't cute. And so I'll be the first coach to affirm and say, that is super sweet. I'm sure they'll love that. I'm sure that's sweet and cute. And then they'll hire an agent that they know is good at listing properties, because you are not top of mind as a listing specialist. So I want to encourage you that if you're farming an area, this is a whole other show, do your math first, right? Know the turnover rate, total number of homes, days on market, average commission. Do the analysis on any area you want to farm and then commit to it long term. If once in a while you send a fun postcard to an area where you don't have a plan or a commitment, I don't consider that farming. Okay, so I would say at least once a month, and I'm happy with once a month. I know some people who say it has to be every 2 weeks. I think that's excessive. When the turnover rate is maybe 7% and most of those people won't be moving for 8 years, I think pounding them with, dead trees is excessive. But that's me. So I would say if once a month you update them on what has happened around them, and it's really, really professional, the logo, the header, everything is consistent, I think you will start to convince them over time Oh, we've got something. Mark said he uses a document and cuts and paste phrases. He's talking back to contract templates. That's
He
awesome.
is. Yep.
Yeah, so he keeps his contract templates just in a document ready. And so he's making a really good point about phrases and clauses and things, because you couldn't have, or jumping back to contracts, you couldn't have a contract template that addresses every scenario. So having all those phrases really close at hand for any scenario to cut and paste. Good job. Thanks, Mark. So where were we? Now farming.
Farming.
So time saver. Let's make sure the pieces that you're sending are going to be effective enough to convert. Otherwise, Brian Tracy says there is nothing so pointless as doing very well that which need not be done at all, right? So, you could be consistent with your sweet postcards that nobody takes seriously. I had this was a headbutting between me and a coaching client for all of last year, and she finally shifted it up to be something more substantive, and she was cracking up on our last coaching call. She's like, guess what? I got my first come with me call. She said, I can't believe you were right. Me neither. So, make sure that your piece is substantive, make sure it's going to convert. But the thing that I said in beginning of talking about farming is then delegate it. Create a template with a consistent logo, with a consistent header, so that every time it comes, it's obvious that it's yours, it's obvious that it's you. You can change the content, but make sure that there's consistent branding, and then delegate that. Hire a company, hire a virtual assistant, delegate it to your assistant, get somebody else doing that on an absolute schedule, and get that out.
Yeah, Allegiance Marketing does a lot of this for our associates.
Great.
And figure out what the template is and make sure that you like it, and then let them roll with it every month.
Okay, awesome. See, this is why I have to leave space for you to interject. Okay, hire marketing help. The number of people, the number of agents, and we're all guilty of it, who spend our weekends or our evenings or a huge chunk of our day trying to learn some new marketing software or craft an ad or try to make something. And those of you who are gifted designers and also realtors, just think about how much your time is worth as a realtor, and the fact that even if you're good at design, that's not actually your job. But most of us aren't good at it. Most of us are limping along and doing our best with not very professional tools and spending a ton of time on things that don't turn out very well. So if it takes you 3 hours to produce a flyer and your time is easily worth $150 an hour, would you be willing to pay someone else $450 to give you a flyer? You'd choke on that. You'd be horrified. If I said, hey, I know somebody who will do a flyer for $450, you'd think I was insane, but you just did. So I strongly encourage you to find marketing help and find people that you can delegate some of that stuff to. Marketing help. Systems. Charlie, you and I have talked about this so many times.
We sure have.
And this is more than a show. I mean, a systems conversation could be a 3-day seminar, right? So create systems for anything that you do repeatedly. If it's time to write a contract and you're starting over as though you've never written one before, then that's a problem. That's a time suck. You need a system. Every single time you take a listing, every single time you post an ad on Facebook, every single time you hire another person, you need a system for that. Otherwise, you're being bogged down by the, how do we do this again? Let's figure out where to begin. Have a lather, rinse, repeat way of running your business. Anything that you're going to do repeatedly, create a system for. So here are some examples. Use a pre-listing email with testimonials and marketing samples and have that ready to go. And with the pre-listing document that Remax Allegiance has for their agents, for your agents, it's so beautifully done. It's so professional in setting the tone for how the listing process goes.
Right.
So include your own marketing samples and your testimonials with that. Boom, right? That tends to pave the way. That tends to convert you. That tends to win you the listing before you even show up, either in person or on Zoom. But it definitely saves you time of trying to collect those things at the last minute when you have it pre-done. Another system to have in advance that's going to save you a ton of time, and we've talked about this on other shows, do buying strategy sessions. Don't show houses and don't write offers to buyers who don't understand the current pace of the market. And Charlie, I want to pause. Let's see, we've got 5 minutes. I want to pause for just a minute and really emphasize this one, because a lot of agents don't know what I mean. And so I want to be really, really clear. Get on Zoom, open up the MLS with them watching you log in, chatting along. I could do it now. I could show you. I could chat you up, You can see me log in. And the reason I do this is because how many buyers think we're just not looking, or we just don't know, or haven't we ever heard of Redfin? Like, I think, I don't know if it's exactly this bad in this market, but it's been this way for a long time, that buyers would send us something they found on Zillow that wasn't an actual listing, and they think we just don't try very hard. So when you can have them watch you log in, they're coming along. They're coming along for the journey, and it kind of slows them down and gets them focusing and paying attention to what you're saying. And if all I was do is talk like I am now and say, average days on market for your target property is 8, and the list to sell ratio is 101.42% of asking at the time of contract. We've got 2 active properties and 29 under contract. Wow, that's really fast. You're going to have to be competitive. Are they going to? When it's time to write the offer and I say, what do you want to offer? They'll say, oh, I don't know. They were not ready. The visuals help incredibly. So you log into the MLS, you put in their search criteria, you put it in a table. In my MLS, it's called the one-line CMA. It's totally not a CMA. It's just a table. So you figure out how to get everything in a table. I show them what's active. It's very little. I show them what's under contract pending, and I show them what's sold. And then I look at the bottom of the sold, and I show them, it averages it all out. There's an average square foot, which is not really relevant, but average year, size, things like that. And given that I bracketed the search already, it's going to be appropriate. And the ones I'm going to show them is average days on market and list to sell ratio at the time of contract. And when I show them on average across this entire whatever it is, whatever we bracketed, we're seeing 102% of asking, 103% of asking, 101.45% of asking at the time of contract. And then I'll explain what that means. That means more that on average, they got more than they asked. On average, right? And then we can go up and look at the outlier, that 109% of asking one that's in the list. And then I can shut up and say, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about offering more than full price? And when they say, oh, I would never offer more than full price for a house, you've got your work cut out for you. Let's have that conversation now, not when we're competing. Not when they say, well, I've got 9 offers on the table, come swinging. And you say to your buyer, wow, it's tough out there. What are you willing to offer? And they're like, I don't know. What should I offer? So huge time saver. Huge time saver. I educate them about what their options are before they fall in love with the kitchen. 3 minutes. Okay. Don't do tasks that you can hire someone else to do. That's a simple way to say it. But Charlie, you probably have this all the time. You have coaching clients say, well, I'd hire somebody, but I don't know what to ask them to do. Right?
Sure.
Well, there's tons of lists. Go Google it. What can a real estate assistant do? So don't let that be your excuse. But I have done this exercise with realtors, and I'll say, here's the thing. There are 492 things, and of course I made up the number. There are 492 things that have to get done in your job easily. And there's only 11 that only you can do. The rest could be delegated. And I say it's actually 10, but I had one control freak who wouldn't give up the 11th. And then I make people laugh. But it's really true. I've done this exercise. What are the things that only you can do, you and you alone? It's not that many, right? So it's time to wrap your head around the fact that you're doing a ton of things that someone else could do. And I know that delegating is hard. My goodness, Charlie, maybe I spend more time on my coaching calls than you do having this conversation. Letting that go, trusting their ability to delegate, trusting their ability to supervise someone else is challenging. So those of you who are feeling really, really triggered right now and saying, I don't want to have to figure it out. Yeah, it's a learning curve. It is. Going to real estate school was hard. Writing your first contract was hard. Taking your first listing was hard. This is hard, but it's really worthy. It's worth it. So I would say look for things that you can delegate, even if it's hiring a teenager to stuff envelopes. There are things that you're doing that someone else could do. So that's what I would say. Huge time saver, hire people to do things. Anything that you can hire someone to do, you should. And then look ahead to the idea. And Charlie, you and I had the good fortune, or I don't know, did you attend Blueprint?
I attended a quarter of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I attended half of it. I couldn't get in the first day. but it sort of rejuvenated my commitment to using software for project management, which I'm already committed to. And Eyerusalem and I both teach classes on this at Remax Allegiance. But look ahead, believe that it's possible that you could have software that everything goes into, that your tasks, your projects, your lists, your life belongs in a dashboard, so that you're not having to be in a million places at once. You've got a notebook for this, you've got a calendar for that, you've got this for contract deadlines, but you've got something else for other types of deadlines. Believe that it's possible. We teach classes on Asana at Remax Allegiance, and there are others. So project management software. And I got to the bottom of the list. It's a miracle.
Yeah, I think that, and ideas coming from a conference that maybe you don't want to implement until November. Put it in some software so you don't forget about it, and it doesn't sit in the notebook that maybe you don't have when you're going, so what did I attend in the spring? What was that idea, right? If it's in Asana or, Trello or Monday or whatever you want to use, right? Then it's there until you delete it. I used to be a big proponent of, well, just email myself.
Yeah.
I get enough email, even from myself, right? Put it in Asana, and then it's safe, right? That was a great list. I appreciate you joining us this morning, Amy. Always good to see you. We'll see you next week.
All right.